So for people who don't know, the very quick background is you had your family fucking with you, lying to you, gaslighting you for like, it seemed like 6 years. Can you give us a little recap on that as you're financially supporting them, keeping them from being homeless, and they just seem to treat you like absolute garbage?
Yes, sure. So when I first moved after college, I got my first job. I found out that they were losing their house in the form of, I got an email that said my credit card was maxed out.
Oh, no.
And
that's not how you usually find out.
No.
Yeah. And I was really, how did you get my credit card? But when I first got here, I was unaware that they were losing their house. And it was the first time I had seen them in a few years. So we were just hanging out, and I needed some credit cards to live to my first paycheck. So I mailed those to them while I was moving, and they brought them, but they wrote the credit card numbers down. And they were buying everything for me, like taking me out to dinner and stuff while we were here hanging out with my credit cards. So I found out months later in the middle of a work day that my credit card was maxed out, and I called and I was like, what is this? And I saw the bill. It was Kyle will know because he's in Atlanta, but it's Marietta Power Company.
Yes.
They were in Georgia. So I was like, what? I don't even live there. And so it was just kind of like a downhill spiral, I guess. But I was mad, but instead of being mad, I was more concerned that my family was in the process of becoming homeless. So I gave them my entire savings, gave them my apartment, and then went and got another apartment, and they moved here. And then after that, there was a lot of lies involved, got involved with drugs. And then I was totally unaware. I guess I'm just super naive. I mean,
Yeah. So like, I wanted to ask this because I also did a little bit of research, and it seemed like, how old were you when this specific incident occurred? When your credit card was maxed out, and you were like, "Oh wait, my family's losing their home." How old were you then?
About 25.
So prior to you being 25, had there been like little red flags along the way, like when you were a child, when you were an adolescent, when you were a teenager?
No, not so much. I think growing up it was fairly normal. I knew that they did some dumb spending things, like they would buy things that I'm like, how can you afford that? But there wasn't any. But there was never any like, that's just stealing from your kids. There was never.
It's worse than stealing. Like it's identity theft, right? Like
ruins your credit, all that stuff.
It ruins your credit. Like money can be replaced really easily. Credit is so hard to rebuild. You know, you can't just go to Chase and be like, no, you don't understand. You see, my mom stole my identity. I pay my bills. It's her. They're like, well, how do we know that she's not going to steal your identity? Can't like they don't believe you. They're not going to believe that shit. So
I think the decision is whether or not you want your parents to take the fall for it, right? Like in my mind, so I watched this too. The choice was I can either, accept a screwed up credit record and pay off these bills, or two, my parents go to jail. Because my credit gets stolen all the time. Not so much in the last year, but it used to happen like literally twice a month. And they'd be like, hey, we've got these weird charges at like Cumberland Farms. They're not even around here, jewelry stores, whatever. And I'd just be like, nope, that's a you problem. That's fraud. That has nothing to do with me. And they're like, all right, we get it. And it was easy as that. They just accepted my word. They were usually new cards that were open and charges. So you could have done that, but they absolutely would have gone straight to your parents to go criminal. Yeah.
I mean, what do you do when you're in that situation? You want to help them out, right? Because now I'm in a situation where I can, whereas, they raised me, I went off to college, got a job. And so I figure, it feels like even though I'm upset, my credit is totally destroyed. I want to help you not be under a bridge.
You mentioned the power company charge, and like I'm in my own head, I'm processing like, well, how bad was the stealing? As if stealing's not all equal.
Yeah,
but like the electric bill is like one kind of stealing. If they also put like home electronics and stuff on it, that's a different kind of spending on.
And if it's a situation where they're like 50 DVD players, and they're going and reselling them so that they can make cash out of your credit, I don't
know what's the worst to me, because to my mind, frivolous spending is one of the meanest things they could have done.
Well, what I just suggested is like outright theft, right? Where they're taking pennies on the dollar on your credit to put cash in their pocket, like.
So what was
and I think we're going to get to the root of this later, but and maybe I'm jumping the gun a little bit, but there's going to be this thing we're coming to. And it's like, at what point do you say family or not? You know, I don't want to jump the gun yet, but like, that's what's in my head right now. It's like family or not.
So what was on the cards? Let's.
It was mostly just utility bills.
Okay.
I had no idea that it was even being used. Like, I never got any like fraud. This card is being used across the United States from you. I never got any alerts or anything like that, because I guess they had started using it before I even got it. So that was like the first time it was used. And so that location didn't trigger any red flags for them.
Right. Yeah, they don't know normal spending patterns because the new cards.
Mm-hmm.
And this was about the same time you had given them a car, right? Or was that a bit afterward?
I brought them here, and they had a car, but they pawned it. They pawned both of their cars, actually. And so then they were just walking to work or riding a bike to work. And I was like, this is not right. Like, you guys shouldn't be pawning your vehicles, but also like you can't walk in minus 20-degree weather 2 miles like that. I mean, you can, but I'm not going to let you do that. So I got them a car. Yeah, and then they got that, like, one of my sister's friends stole it and got into a hit and run, and the police raided my house. It was just a giant mess. Like,
man, you've had so much drama in your life. Like, are you on medication now to be this chill?
No, not really. It just, I don't know. Like, I can be really upset. So, like, some days I think about it, but most of the time, I don't know. It was really hard the first year, but now,
Family
I
must
wish
be
them
really
the best.
important to you.
I would have liked to think it was at the time. I mean, that's what
I know.
Your actions speak to that. Yeah.
Yeah, your actions are louder than words. Because I'm going to tell you right now, I love my family. I really do. Like, I've had differences with my mom and stuff, but like, I love her a lot. If she needed help, I'd help her. I'd be there in a heartbeat. But if she stole from me, like, that's a one strike you're out kind of thing. Like, if she stole from me, like if she asks for money, oh, you can have all I have and more. I'll borrow money and get it to you. Like whatever it takes. But if you steal from me and you're that close to me, I can't forgive that, because that's so nefarious. I've never experienced anything like that. I've had family members borrow money and then be a little weird about paying it back. And that's one of those things where it's like, come on, like, you're going to make me come to you to ask you for my money back. Like, that's a little shitty. Like I won't mention which family member, but it's like a extended family member. And like, I've loaned them money. It took a little while to get it back. I got it back, but it was like, you made me come to you for the money. And that's a little shitty. You should like if the shoe's on the other foot, if someone borrows money from me, or excuse me, if I borrow money from someone, you're not going to have to come for that money. As soon as I have it, and I'm going to be giving you updates. Hey man, I'll have that money in 2 weeks, I think. Or actually, I won't have it all, but I'm going to have like 2/3 of it. I'm going to get that to you right now. What's the best way for me to get that money? Would you like cash? Would you like a check? Would you like PayPal? Like, I'm trying to make it right because I know what it's like. This is blowing my mind that this happened to.
It was I was watching the video. I was like I clicked the first one you made, and I was like, I mean, everybody has family problems. It can't be that bad. And I'm like bench pressing, listening to it, like using my anger at your family, like those bastards. like, I can't believe like giving them a car, them committing crimes in the car, you getting your house raided. What was the house raid like? Was it over pretty quick when they realized, the situation, or was it like, it's obviously cops in there. It's not their job to understand. It's their job to respond. How did that go?
The car was in my name because I didn't want them to pawn it, of course, which is kind of a crappy thing to have to even consider that they would do with something that you're gifting them, which is strange. But it was in a hit and run, and the tag and the insurance came back to me. And so they came to my house. And they were like, come out, hands up, all that stuff. But after they were like, I don't even have this car. Like, I'm still here, haven't gone anywhere, then they were like, oh, okay, well, you'll be contacted by the lady's insurance, and this is her info and all that stuff. And so now, even today, my car insurance is all super high for something I didn't do.
Fucking ridiculous.
So that's how that works. If they get into an accident while you buy the insurance, it's your problem.
Yep. If no one will claim it, then it just goes to the person's name that's on it.
Something that was curious to me listening to it is the period of time that your dad seemed to not have a job. Like, did he have a job all throughout your growing up years, and then once he realized he could kind of use you as a bank account, he stepped back and decided to bum? Or was that, it seemed almost like sudden, or did you kind of see signs of that as a kid?
He had the same job. Well, I mean, like pretty much the same job my whole life. And then his company wanted him to start charging like 1,000% markup on a parts, and he's like, I'm not going to do that. We've been selling it for this price for so long, and this feels like theft, and you want me to sit here and fill out my time cards and stuff while I'm still in their parking lot and charge them hourly for that, even though the job is done. He's like, I'm not going to do that. That's like stealing from the customer, so I'm going to quit, make my own company. But what happened was that he signed a non-compete when he was 27 years old that said he cannot work in any industry related for 2 years. So what do you do? That's what he's been doing for 30 years. I mean, so he broke the non-compete, made his own company. They eventually found out because he took some customers, and then they sued him and he lost. And that, I don't know, when they took his house, one day they just showed up to take his boat. Like, I was just chilling upstairs playing games, and some people showed up to take the boat. And I was like, hey, there's some people stealing your boat outside right now. He's like, just straight face, just looking at the TV. I'm like, bro, there's people hooking up to your boat in the driveway, and they just took off. And from then I was like, something's not right. Cause I was working with him while he had his own company, but I left right around the time things started to fall apart. And I really had no idea, cause I was there when he got a DMC later, a cease and desist pretty much. And, he's like, nah, I'm not even worried about it. This is, the only thing I've done my whole life. There's no way they can tell me I can't do this, because it's the only thing I know how to do to make money. And he seemed pretty confident, but he lost because he got sued in 2 different states, Georgia and the headquarters where they're at. And so he couldn't pay the lawyer, he couldn't pay his mortgage, so they just took everything from him. And then from then on, I think it was just kind of like a mental shift happened. He wasn't the same man that I knew growing up. But he had jobs when he got here. Well, not at first, but I gave them my apartment and 3 months rent up front, so you don't have to ask me for money, because I hate that. Like, you're my parents, I don't mind, but here's 3 months anyways. Here's everything you need. Go look for jobs. And they said that they would get jobs, and they said that they had jobs, but then things started to not add up there. I would, go visit them, just check in on them, see how they're doing, and one of them would be at home. Like, my mom would be at home, and I'm like, you're supposed to be at work. She's like, oh, it's my day off. So then I'd come maybe a day or 2 later, she'd be home again. I'd be like, it's my day off. I'd be like, no. And so eventually I found out that she had gotten fired from a job, and she just couldn't admit it. So
you are such a nice guy.
My wife is watching your
By the way,
videos.
Josh, I need to borrow like $15,000. I know we haven't known each other long, but it's only 15, right?
I have a topic like that coming up. I'm watching your videos, and my wife is just milling around the house, folding laundry, making dinner. And she's like, is that your guest tonight? And I'm like, yeah. And she goes, he needs a hug. So
dude, I want to give you a hug. I really do. I want to tell you this right now. What's happened to you is bullshit, and you seem like a really chill, sweet guy, and you don't deserve all that has happened to you. And if there is some sort of afterlife, that's not really my bag, but I hope if you believe in one, then you're going to be treated well, because you're a fucking saint. You're one of the kindest individuals I've ever even fucking heard of. This stuff is outrageous. Anyone else would have like pulled the ripcord on step one.
So much. The story where you learned paragliding was like, somehow that sunk in extra deep for me. We can talk about that later, by the way. But so you're on the mountain, you're doing your thing, and your dad's there, and he's supposed to be driving, I think, for Uber or something to make extra cash, but instead he spends the day with you, and you're like, oh, this is kind of neat, like Dad's watching me do a thing, like sort of fulfill one of my own life goals, and here he is checking me out, etc. And then as the day sort of wraps up, I imagine you there kind of exhausted, having walked up the hill a dozen times with the freaking heavy ass wing, hard to carry, slung over your shoulder. And your father starts bumming money off of you. And it comes to a realization that he's not there to see you, like, I don't know, complete a life goal and learn to fly.
Yeah.
He's there for cash.
It was a trick. Yeah.
Ouch. I was going to ask Josh, where's your relationship with your family now? Because like I feel like you've been cut loose and disowned more than once. Like this is a tactic as a way to get more cash out of you. Are you still cut loose?
So they've tried to contact me. My dad tried to call me after that, maybe 9 months or so, and the first words out of his mouth were, "How you doing, boy?" Not, "I'm sorry, I want to apologize, don't hang up." Like that, sort of, kind of as you would expect. It was, "How you doing, boy?" And I just let him talk for a few minutes, and I said, "You've been talking for this long, and you still haven't apologized." And he was like, "That was then, this is now, nothing I can do about it." And I'm like, okay. So at that point, I stopped caring, and I just wanted to just ask him a bunch of questions so that I could have information if the police ever came to me for anything that they needed, because people would go to jail and the police would call me, or people would miss work. Yeah, so
good for you, man. Like for real. Good for you.
That was when you discovered the drug issue side of it also, right? Like you didn't know about that initially, or did you know about the drugs prior to that conversation with your dad?
I knew nothing about drugs really with them. I would have never thought that they would ever do that. Like they would smoke cigarettes, but not that's not, that sort of stuff ever. And it was like, I never found any evidence. People, when they saw the video, they're like, "Josh, it's drugs, gambling, something." And I never actually saw any evidence until my girlfriend's dad pointed it out. I was showing him some pictures. He's a firefighter.
Okay.
And so my camera froze. I'll fix it in a sec. He's a firefighter, and he looked at my dad's eyes, and he saw that they were just pinpoints, just tiny. He's like, "Josh, your dad's not even in his brain right now. Like this is how out there." And that's when kind of the dominoes started to fall. Let me just.
What kind of drugs? Battery. What kind of drugs was it?
Heroin and meth.
Oh goodness. So not
skipping right to the end game of drugs.
Yeah. Jesus Christ.
So and basically what had been happening is they'd been lying. Was it pretty much that whole time from the first cutoff from your grandparents that they had been, even before that, I'm sure, using that money, lying about what they were spending it on to get heroin?
Yeah. So my dad would have these mysterious medical issues, and he'd say, "I need to go to the doctor and get this and that." But he would never tell me what doctor. He would never show me a receipt, nothing. But, he's like, "I'm going to die if I don't have it." I'm like, "Okay, here you go," Or they would do the triple dipping thing, I guess is what I would call it. They would call me, they'd call my mom's parents, they'd call my dad's parents, and they'd all ask each one of them for money, but they wouldn't tell you if they got money from someone. So they'd, get money from everyone and not say, "Oh no, they already gave me money, we're good." They would just do that every day. So I'd have to tell them, like, if they talk to you and ask for money, please tell me, so I know not to give them money, and that I know that you already got it. And like, there would just be petty things like that. And I'd be like, "Why are you lying to me? I already know you got money this week," or I don't know, stuff like that.
Yeah, that is rough. Was that kind of the final nail in the coffin of wanting to distance yourself, like realizing the duplicitousness, the trickery, and the drugs the whole time?
Yeah. So I was under the impression that, first of all, my mom, my dad, and my sister were all living in Utah, but I was under the impression that my mother and my sister went back to go be a caretaker for my grandfather before he passed away, and that's where they were going to stay. And it was just going to be me and my dad here, and I was going to take care of him and help him get a job and help him with YouTube and do his whole channel thing and all that stuff. And that didn't happen. My mom became a caretaker. My grandfather passed away, and then my mom started using my deceased grandfather's pain pills, stealing until she got caught, and then my grandmother kicked her out back to Utah with my dad. But when I went to go see my dad, there was a time where I went to go knock on his door just because I wanted to check in on him, because he doesn't answer, sends these texts that don't make sense because he's probably out of it or something. And my mom and my sister were both behind the door, but he wouldn't let me in. I never knew that I was that close to just like uncovering it all, because what if I had just walked in and they're in there doing drugs, which is probably what they were doing, and why he wouldn't let me in.
Yeah. There's syringes on the table or whatever.
Yeah, probably
there's syringes on my table too, but that's a different story.
Those are to get yoked syringes, not heroin syringes.
Yeah.
How is Man, the drug thing is really threw me for a loop when you talked about it, because it's like it does go to show how powerful drugs are, that like your family, your parents, like there comes a point where they will put like you tied to a train track just to get high again. And it's a sad realization, I'm sure, to be like, I'm playing second fiddle to meth right now.
Yeah, I gave my dad a second car, my car that I had, after I transferred the title and all that stuff to him after they stole it, because I was like, I'm not dealing with this anymore. You guys can have it, and the insurance and all that. So they pawned that. So then I said, here's another car. Me being dumb, right? Obviously, it's laughable now. You're like, what are you doing, Josh? Yeah. But you feel like you're doing the noble thing. Honestly, you just want to help them. And I never knew about drugs or anything. But when I finally took my car back after I said, I'm not paying, you can't have my car anymore. Said you were going to get a job. So I finally went and got a repo dude to come take it while he was, I don't know, at home. All three of them were there. And I didn't know that when I was repoing the car. I didn't know I was taking it from all three of them. But when I got in the car, checked it out, looked for evidence of drugs, because everyone's saying that that's what they're doing, I didn't find any. But I did find that I gave them that car at 40,000 miles. And in 8 months, they put like 20,000 miles on it. And where are you going? You don't.
Drug dealers' houses.
Like, where are you driving to all the time? All the places that you would work would be half a mile from your house.
Yeah. And so there's no explanation for that. I'm sure he just lied and denied the whole drug thing. That's what you said.
And this is, you know what I'm just realizing? This is the stuff that you're aware of, because like it was tied to you, like, either your social security number, or you found out about it. Who knows what you don't know about, right? Like who knows, like one of these days you're gonna be like, hey, I wonder where's my second DVD player at? Or like there's probably so many little things like that you don't even know about.
There are some that I figured out like after the fact. My dad asked me for money once, and he said he didn't have enough in his bank to make a withdrawal, and it's in there, but I have to wait till the next day to bounce his check. And essentially he would give me a check for $100 and I'd give him $100 cash. And he did that knowing that the check would bounce, but he has my cash. And so obviously the check bounced, and I'm just like, you planned this. You knew that I wasn't going to be able to get that money. This is what you've.
Yeah. And like realizing probably like he's given you like a false smile, just trying to play to your emotions, take advantage of the fact that he's your dad.
Yeah.
That's just beyond shitty. And you said growing up, there was no indication really that like a turn like this was going to happen.
I would have never ever seen it. It wasn't bad. Like growing up was fine. We had a fairly, I don't know, lower middle class life. Like I wasn't like in poverty. Like we had food and clothes and stuff. It was fine. I would have never seen anything like those sorts of things, like you sit as a kid, you'd sit and watch like A&E and intervention and stuff, and they're like, wow, that's crazy. Never in my life would I ever put their faces in that show.
Yeah. And something that was interesting, I remember you saying in the second video, your dad saying, I don't watch those videos because your grandparents told me not to. And I wasn't sure to like, I don't know if I believe that, if he actually didn't watch them, but like, another thing it revealed is that your grandparents were lying to him in their own right, trying to hide your side of the story from him in as much as they could. So, and it seemed like you were angriest at them overall. Because
they made it look like, instead of me just not wanting to be a piggy bank anymore, that there was some sort of like, I don't know, like I hate them as a family and like I don't want anything to do with them anymore. And like, maybe some of that was true too, but it wasn't. They tried to make it seem like I was just doing it to be mean.
Yeah.
And not because I had given him warnings for like 4 or 5 months at a time. Every month is like, hey man, you got to get a job next month. Okay. Yeah, I will. And then the next month, hey man, look. And it went on and on like that for years, really. And then eventually one of the times I just said, all right, this is it, the last one. But obviously he doesn't believe me because I've said that 30 times before. So when I finally put my foot down, even my grandparents were betting on me breaking, because I've told them, this is the last month before too. And I was like, I'm not going to pay his rent. And then they would message me a month later and be like, yeah, so how do you pay his rent? And I would say, I paid it. It's fine. He's still looking. It would always be that constant. I have just one more interview next week, just another one next week. Oh, the position got filled with someone else. Like there's always something to keep it going, to keep me right there. Like he's going to have his own money.
Yeah, it's always right on the horizon.
Yeah.
No, because he's a master manipulator. He's figured it out. He's figured, and you're not the only one he's doing that to. I guarantee. I'm sure he's doing it to lots of people. Anyone that will bite, and you just happen to be in that position where you're trying to be a good son.
How are you funding all this? Is it just YouTube money? Are you working full time on top of YouTube?
Just YouTube. I don't know. I'm fairly frugal, I guess. I make investments when I can, but other than that, I just usually buy food and clothes and expense stuff for the channel, I guess. But yeah, it was all just me, just saving, because I don't buy a whole lot. So I just save.
And you don't have a fucking drug problem.
And by saving, you mean giving your money to somebody else.
Yeah. I thought that was the right thing to do. Like I thought that was.
I hate this for you. I hate this so much.
It's horrible, and like for a parent to like knowingly sabotage their own child's financial future, like the destroying your credit thing, the embroiling you in crimes where the car that's in your name, it's not enough to do a hit and run, then they continue to seek out drugs in the car. You said that something else they would do is they'd use the car that you gave them, and your dad would drive them to like Walmart, and your mom and sister would get out, go in, steal a bunch of stuff, come out, get in your fucking car, and then go sell it on Facebook Marketplace. So it's just a flagrant disregard, like for you as a person. Like, oh no, he's got the internet money, he'll be fine.
They're drug addicts.
Who cares?
That's what my grandmother said. She's like, you make thousands every month. And it's like, so do people with normal salary jobs. Everybody usually makes thousands a month, but like, it doesn't mean I can just pay rent, buy bills, pay his imaginary doctor bills, like all this other stuff. Like I still want to work towards something for myself.
You need to find a real family. You need to find a good family that wants to adopt you. You want to be a Myers? Myers, because we'll suck you right on in. Okay, we don't need any money from you. You just show up. Hey, I cook a great Thanksgiving. I deep fry a turkey every year.
Okay,
dressing. It's a whole Southern thing. You're from Georgia anyway. Yeah. I'm sure you like that shit.
Yeah,
but like won't borrow any money at all from you. Do you play the guitar or anything? We have these great times where everybody gets together and plays the guitar and sings. Great time.
Okay,
you could be a Myers.
Yeah. Things always get really weird when anyone like ever asks me for money now. It's always just like instantly I become overly suspect. I don't know. It's like, what do you want?
That's the YouTube thing, man. Anytime anyone asks for anything, so many people are working you, and then their palm comes up later. Soon enough they'll be asking for something. It can be exposure, it can be cash, who knows what it is, but there's you just get guarded. You put walls up because the turn seems like it's always coming.
The thing that people ask of me a lot is my time, and I'm very generous with my time. Like we've got this Discord of guys who are like part of our Patreon, and like anytime someone wants to talk about whatever, like I'll jump in a call with them and like chat with them. Sometimes for an hour at a time. Like my time I'll give away, but like, man, this whole idea of milking you for your money and like this repeated process of like, I guess you didn't know that it was drugs, but like it makes so much sense now that we know it's heroin and methamphetamine, like, which is an interesting combination. I don't know a lot about drug abusers, but I wasn't aware that I would have thought that you were either a heroin guy or a methamphetamine guy, like one or the other. You know what I mean? It's like,
I think it was because if they couldn't get one, they would get the other.
Yeah. But they're not the same.
Who craves fire and ice? Right? You crave one or the other.
I think they wanted anything but to feel sick from the withdrawals of heroin.
Oh, that's a good point. When you put it that way, they're almost pitiable. I don't know that like justifiable isn't the word. Like I can't wrap my head around doing it to your family, but like I think what we have to keep in mind is that these are people who if they don't rip off their son, then they're going to suffer terribly. I wish that I wish it was like a TV drama, where you could see those times when like maybe there was a time when they were like, no, let's not do this to Josh. And they were vomiting and they were crawling on the floor and just like, this is so awful. Like I bet you're with me, and that if you knew that had happened just once, you could maybe forgive or understand, or at least, something.
I've tried to watch a lot of documentaries about drug addicts. I don't know if you've ever seen the YouTube channel like Soft White Underbelly, where he's just one-on-one interviewing addicts on the street, and they tell their story. And I try to, I don't know, does that sound messed up? I try to watch them, and they talk about how they can think about nothing else. They don't care about anything else. It rewires the chemistry of their brain to where they're incapable of feeling that sort of, no, he's my kid, I can't do that. It's just, no, I need more. How do I fund it? And that's, I don't know. I try to understand how it changes people's brains, how it changes their attitudes. And it's almost like they're hijacked by something inside, and they're still in there somewhere.
Yeah.
And it can come back, but
well, it just rewires all your reward pathways. And so it's like now, whereas when you were a kid, maybe your dad gets joy taking you to a baseball game or something, gets a little dopamine hit, spending time with my son, that feels good. I like that. I'm going to do this more. You replace all that with like an artificial stream from heroin or something. And now that's so much more intense than the high you get from lifting weights or eating a reasonably healthy meal or whatever, that everything has to surround that. I jumped in because I had to go to the bathroom, but you're talking about watching videos about addicts online and stuff. Yeah, it does open your eyes to that problem, because I've definitely done the same.
I was really harsh, I think. I think in the videos I was, I think some of it was me just being mean, just to be mean, but that's how I felt when I was making that. I had no one to go to, really, because the people that you go to are the people that are doing the thing to you. So you turn on the camera and you just talk, just get it all out, I guess. So that's what I did. You did
a great job in those. Like the little, I think most people would have been much more brutal and meaner. Like just having like one or two, fuck you and fuck you too. Like that must have been a nice little bit of, catharsis, getting that off your chest, or a little bit.
What got me as a video maker is I knew they were scripted. So I was like, is he going off script right now, or does he have like bird in parentheses on the script?
I had like notes of different examples that I wanted to hit of things that they did, but it wasn't a script. A lot of it was just me following through what I could remember happened. And then as I was making that, different examples would pop in my head. And so then I would go off a little bit, but
use bullet points. That's what I do too when I make a comparable video. It's like, God, these are the things I need to hit to tell this story properly.
You said that, you've spoken to them, like family members, since then. It seems to revolve a lot around your dad, and you're not like having the direct communication with your mom, and it doesn't seem at all like with your sister. Is that still the way it is? Like it's almost like your dad's the liaison for the family to talk to you.
Probably not so much anymore, since when he called me and he wasn't very sincere, he was like, don't put this in one of your YouTube videos. I knew from the moment he said that I was going to do it because I wanted him to know what it feels like when someone lies to your face that you trust so much. So that's why I did it. And maybe that's mean, but
can I ask a question?
Sure.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I know it varies from state to state. If you had recorded these phone calls, and I think you're in California, are you allowed to upload like because that's what I would do. I would record any phone calls in the future I had with them, and I would upload that as reference.
Yeah, so I'm in Utah, and it's one-party consent state, so I could do it if I wanted.
I thought for some reason I thought you were in California. We were talking about West Coast earlier. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.